Hey everybody, welcome back to Omens. I'm your host Ryan, AM Air Pronouns, and this is episode 48, the Three of Swords. Oof, so we're hitting the heavy hitters. Oh, by the way, happy December. I believe by this point Hanukkah is over, so sorry I missed that. Happy belated Hanukkah to those who celebrate it. And happy whatever holidays to everybody else. I know Kwanzaa and Christmas and Yule and Solstice, and other than those five, counting Hanukkah, I don't know the names of any of the other ones. So happy winter holidays to whatever it was you're celebrating, or if you're in the southern hemisphere, happy end of the year summer holidays. Hope they were fun. Or hope they will be fun. Time is a disaster, especially when we record these early or out of order. No, it's not out of order. Okay. All right. Well, anyway, we're diving into the Three of Swords today. This card is known for being the heartbreak sword, the heartbreak card, the grief card. Nobody likes seeing the Three of Swords when it comes up, sadly, because honestly, I don't think it's all that horrible of a card. I mean, I know a lot of people don't like seeing it when it comes up, and I also get a little bit twitchy when it comes up because I'm like, ugh, it's so blatant and linear. It's so like narrow. It tends to feel like, but hopefully, while we go through this, we might expand our understanding of the card a little bit. All right, so I'm gonna break this down. I've added a couple categories by this point. So first off, our first card is from my Gilded Tarot, and it's kind of the traditional image, a heart with three swords piercing it. However, it's not, usually in the traditional image is three swords all upright, piercing straight down through a heart. This one is one sword piercing down through the middle of the heart, and then two other swords are coming up at an angle and crossing in the middle as they pierce the heart. And the heart itself has a stylized sun on it as well. It's a very pretty card. It's honestly really pretty for a card that's supposed to be all about heartache and grief, and even the gray clouds behind are kind of sunny. There's a little bit of a light breaking up over the top. The bottom clouds are pretty dark. You can tell it's all gray clouds and whatnot, but you can see a little light behind the top cloud. But so the first section I've got is the swords. So what do swords mean? Especially in this card particularly. Well, a little bit of what I kind of understand it is, and swords, of course, are all about the mental acuity, knowledge, mental health, the mind, thought, and communication or lack thereof. Same thing with thought or lack thereof. Sometimes we ain't thinking. And you know what? That's happened. Some people don't run by their brains. Most of us can't run 100% by our brains. Even some people who run the majority of the time through their brains they're following their hearts to a degree. Little bits. Our emotions are kind of chemicals that our brain produces sometimes. So, yeah. Alright, so in this card in particular, I'd almost say the swords represented here are about the pain that comes through facing the truth, and facing that truth engenders growth. I'm pretty sure I stole that from somewhere, but I'm not sure where. I can't remember. It was one of my many tarot books. But it was a good paraphrase, so I stole it. It was a good line, so I stole it and paraphrased it. So anyway, so that's kind of the swords in this deck, and yeah, especially with this card, I definitely see facing the truth and engendering growth, especially because it's painful. You've got swords piercing it, and there's dark clouds, but like I said, there's light breaking through over the top of the clouds. It's like through facing this pain and working through it, it engenders growth. I mean, there's light beyond the clouds. There's a way to get past. There's a past, basically, past this time. There's a future ahead, more specifically. All right. So that's the swords. The next section, of course, is the air, the kind of air feeling I get with this card. And I've got my good tarot for this. And this is pretty much a scene straight out of the fairy tale The Swan Princess. So we've got a person, a very princess-looking person in white with white wings. She's got a white-winged mask on, and she's kind of got one hand up on her throat, kind of like she's either gasping for breath, like she feels like she's choking. There's a couple of birds with crowns. There's 3 of them. One's sitting on one of her wings, and the other 2 are on branches behind her. And so there's basically the 3 air right there, 3 of air in this deck. The air feeling I get with the 3 of Swords is kind of still air. It's soggy. It's muted. It's like that heavy, foggy air. It's like it's just choking and thick, and everything is muted and quiet, and it feels a little cold. It could feel cold, or it could feel like, might even more feel like, oh, excuse me, heavy and hot air. Like it's just choking and thick. And I mean, right here, she looks like she's choking. It's like she's having to move past wherever she is, and she's just like overwhelmed. That's definitely a good keyword for this card in particular, is overwhelmed. Like, just, I can't deal with any more of this. I've got to leave. It's too heavy. It's too thick. She can't breathe. She's literally putting her hand on her throat like she can't breathe type deal. Alright, so that's kind of the air feeling with this card. Alright, now let's dive into the more meaty parts of it. So first off, the numerology. So it's a number 3. I have my Favol tarot here, and it's a pip deck. So it's literally just 3 masks, all one down after another, kind of like a staircase. And there are those type of masks that they don't tie. They've got a long handle that you hold, and you hold it up in front of your face. And it's not necessarily associated with swords and air. I associate this, the La Favol Tarot it was an art project that really doesn't have, I'm pretty sure I've brought this up before, but it doesn't have a specific tarot association, especially not the suits. There's roses, crosses, masks, and something else. There's a 4th one, but they don't actually, the artist didn't give a correspondence to any actual suits, so you kind of got to make up your own correspondence. The borders look kind of yellow to me for the most part. I mean, the background's fairly yellow, and the borders are, well, they're kind of a pinkish yellow. But for me, yellow equals air, which equals swords, and also because they're masks, they're associated with the face, with the mind, so they're the closest to the head, basically, for me. So that's why I associate them with the swords as opposed to, say, the crosses, which are blue, so they speak more of water and emotions to me, so but anyway, for me, masks are air. So we've got 3 masks all stepped down here. So the number 3 is, as we've established before, it's the gateway to the mind plane. It's where we first get into mental acuity. It governs the memory. It's the start of the numbers expressed best when alone. And what they mean by that is the number 1 and the number 2 work well in tandem together, or well with other numbers. They don't work a whole lot. They don't work that great by themselves. 2 literally requires duality. The 1, it's like the self, okay, and what else is there beyond, like, the physical self? It's like it doesn't really work well alone. 3 and up all work best when they're alone. When there's not more than 1 3, for example, or there's not... Yeah, I think it's that specifically. It really doesn't work well if there's, like, 2 3s. Things get anxious and overblown. There's too much focus on the mind, especially in the birth chart for numerology. So the 3 is it's all about the conscious mind, about rational understanding. It's the left brain, basically. It's the left brain side. Everything is logical, set down. It governs memory, as I said. And it's the beginning, it's the gateway to the mind plane. So this is where the mind actually first starts opening up, basically. So the number 3, so we've got that to add to our list of parts about the 3 of Swords. It's about the mind. It's very focused on the mental, and it's very rational and logical and very left brain focused. It's also expressed in the triangle. The triangle is the shape of the number 3, which represents the connection between the mind, body, and soul. So between the 3, the 1, and the 2, respectively. So that's 3 is where we finally find connection from the 1 and the 2. 1 by itself doesn't work well. 2 by itself doesn't work well. They need more. They need either other numbers or more of their own number, and 1 or each other. And 1 plus 2 equals 3. So they kind of run together really well. All right. So that's number 3. All right, next is our Celestial. And in the Celestial Tarot, we have here a Corona. Specifically, Corona Borealis. I was reading through the thing, and then I started looking up stars and in my Star Magic book, and I'm like, hold up, there's 2 Coronas. There's a Northern Corona constellation. Wow. There's a Northern Corona constellation, there's a Southern Corona constellation, and the southern one is Corona Aurelius, and then Corona Borealis is the northern one, and that's the one we're talking about. So we've got a crown here floating in clouds, a crown with a butterfly on it, front and center, which is kind of cool. Symbols for Mercury and Libra. And the reason for that, of course, so the third card in a suit in the Celestial deck is associated with the trine, which is one of the most harmonious aspects. When 2 planets or 2 points are in trine to each other, it means that stuff flows really easy between their abilities work really well together. So say for example, Venus and Mars, 2 very opposite things, but if they were in trine to each other, then Venus's soft, more receptive love of the pretty things works really well with Mars' aggressive, I want to be the first to do things. So you think of somebody who very naturally, very easily is very aggressive and like, oh, I want that pretty thing. I really want that on my home right now. I'm going to go get it. And it comes so easy and natural to them. So easy. It works really well. Their flow is just really good. Their aggression, their flowery aggression basically is like just deep-seated natural. So that's kind of what a trine is. Corona Borealis. And in this card, this deck and this card, it's associated with the 3rd Deacon, or the last 10 degrees of Libra, which in this deck is, and in modern astrology, is Mercury in Libra. So the Mercury ruled Deacons of Libra. And to be fair, it is both the Mercury ruled Deacons of Libra and also in traditional astrology, the, where is it? Saturn in Libra, but we'll get to Saturn later. So Mercury is the ruler, the natural ruler of Gemini and Virgo. So specifically, the 3rd Deacon of Libra is the Deacon ruled by, is the Gemini Deacon of Libra. So the first 10 degrees are Libra, and then this next 2 are Aquarius in Libra, and the 3rd are the Gemini ruled Libra. So Gemini is a mutable, that's what the M stands for. It's a mutable sign, so it's very easy to move from one thing to another. With Gemini, it can do multiple things at once. It's a day sign. What is A? Oh, A. Air. Duh. So it's a day sign, so it's out and about in the sunshine. It's a little bit more assertive, a little bit more aggressive. It's an air sign, so it has to do with the mind and communication and just verbal. It's where we begin to communicate verbally. It's the thinker. Gemini is very curious and observant. They're often a little scatterbrained, but meh, who isn't? Well, quite a few people, I guess. So that's the Gemini Deacon of Libra. Libra itself is a cardinal day air sign. So it's another day sign, another air sign, so that complements it well with Gemini. All the air signs work really well together. Cardinal, however, means Libra is the starter of things. It's the one that is the idea person who starts stuff, not necessarily finishes it, but Cardinals are good at starting stuff and having the ideas. Libra exemplifies balance. They tend to be the diplomat, and they're also very peace-loving. So we take these into combination, Gemini and Libra in one sign. Libra has more power because it is the sign of Libra, but it's got a flavor of Gemini, basically. So we've got a little bit of the Gemini sprinkles on top of the Libra ice cream. So we've got a lot of balance, but they're a little bit more verbal, a little bit more talkative, a little bit more scattered. My sun sign in Libra actually happens to fall into this Deacon, so yeah, I can see a bit of it me. So, except for I'm not very observant. So that's why it's the Gemini sprinkles, because it's not all that much of Gemini on top of the Libra. Yeah. All right. So, and in particular in this card, it's Mercury in this Gemini Deacon of Libra. So Mercury is it's a day and a night planet, so because it is the ruler of both Gemini and Virgo. And so basically that makes Mercury very androgynous, gender fluid type deal, if we want to go with there. It's able to be both very active, out there, outgoing, and also very receptive and passive and allow things to come. Mercury, the god, who the planet is named after, is very much out and about, the swiftest of the gods, the messenger god, out in the bright day, sunshiny, but he's also the psychopomp, the one who leads the departed souls to the underworld. So he's able to move both in the day and in the night. And there's two different attitudes you got to have with both of those, which he has, which is why Mercury as a planet is also able to do that, because correlation and eventually leads to causation in some points. So Mercury rules our mind, our communication, our attention to detail. Mercury is very curious and witty, versatile, obviously, able to flow between things. A Mercury in Libra places high value on fairness. They look at situations from all angles, can be indecisive or agreeable, which can be not great, because due to the fact that Mercury in Libra prefers to avoid conflict, they can be kind of passive and a little bit more diplomatic than honest. So I have Mercury in Libra. I will attest to this. Diplomatic, and they can tend to... Some of this indecisive agreeableness can lend to being uncertain and insecure, and lead eventually, like in overdrive, to insecurity. Like, I can't make up my mind, so I'm no good at this. So obviously other people know better, and I'll just agree with them. Been there, done that. It's not great. You got to work on being a little bit more assertive. I've been learning that over the last few years. So Yeah, so Mercury in Libra is very very agreeable and not great at being assertive and all that. So trine a little bit more on that. A trine specifically is 120 degrees. It's one of the most flowing and harmonious aspects. The two planets, I wrote all this down. The two planets are symbiotic. Things flow so easily. There's little drive to consciously embody aspects because it's just there. It's like you don't have to try hard to embody some form, some way of being. It's just comes natural, so you don't even bother. Yeah, that's a bit more of a better explanation of that. So, Corona Borealis, more specifically, crown of the north, literally crown of the north wind. Also, it's okay. So it's literally crown of the north, but it's also often translated as crown of the north wind. It was originally cataloged by Ptolemy, and back then it was known simply as Corona because Corona Borealis is in the southern hemisphere, and the Greeks couldn't really see that very well. The ancient Greeks called it either the wreath or Ariadne's tiara or the coiled hair of Ariadne. So basically in the myth, Ariadne was the daughter of Minos of Crete. She was the one who, thanks to, I believe it was Aphrodite's meddling, she's the one who fell in love with Theseus when he landed on the shores of Crete because, long story short, Theseus realized was a long-lost prince, found out that apparently his people were having to send 7 men and 7 women, 7 youths and 7 maidens, as they called it, over to Crete as a sacrifice to keep Crete, the Cretan king, from killing them all, basically. He got pissed off about this, decided he was going to go sneak himself in there. Didn't really do a good job of sneaking. He kind of got found out immediately, but they were just like, oh, this is cool. We're going to throw you in there anyway. I mean, yeah. What else are you going to do with this cocky young bastard? To be sacrificed to Crete as food for the Minotaur so that Crete would leave them alone, basically. I believe it was Aphrodite who basically had Eros pierce Ariadne's heart with an arrow of love, so she saw Theseus, and she's like, oh my god, I'm in love, I can't let this pretty young man die. So she basically snuck out to meet him, and like, here's a ball of thread, and basically tie one into the entrance. That way you can find your way back, and I think she gave him a sword and or another weapon as well to be able to actually kill the Minotaur because he wasn't going to be allowed any weapons, obviously. So he managed to get in there, kill the Minotaur, get his back out, and in return he was supposed to take Ariadne with him and marry her. He didn't do that. He left her on Crete. Just went on his merry way like, hey, thanks for the help, bye. As like, bitch. I think he got a little bit of his comeuppance with the fact that he forgot to change the sails, so his dad threw himself off the cliff when he saw them coming back because he thought his son was dead. Except for then he also becomes king, so who knows. But anyway, that's not important. Theseus is a bitch. Ariadne, however, was kind of left to be like, what the fuck? I literally saved your goddamn life and you just left me. So she was pretty heartbroken. However, as one site I found put it, her true soulmate, Dionysus, the god Dionysus, started courting her, which is kind of cool. And Corona, specifically, the constellation is specifically the crown she wore on her wedding day when she wed Dionysus, basically, which, I mean, that's kind of sweet. It's a happy ending all around. She went through some shit, but through it, she actually ended up meeting and growing better, because if she hadn't helped Theseus, then she probably would have never been out of under her dad's thumb, and therefore she never would have been able to really court Dionysus. So, I mean, it worked out for the best for her. Theseus still a bitch. Now, in Roman myth, The corona was the crown of either a Vulcan or Amphitrite. So Vulcan was the god of the smithy, and he's where we get the name for volcanoes from. Amphitrite was the sea goddess who was married to Poseidon, if I am remembering this correctly. I'm pretty sure I am. We just did something about this recently. So in the Celtic Welsh specifically, Corona was known as Caer Arianrod, or the Castle of Arianrod, or the Silver Wheel, which is the wheel of birth, death, and rebirth. And the moon. Why do I have that there? I think it. Oh, right. It was this constellation was also associated with the moon. So, Arianrod Arianrod of the Silver Wheel. Okay, so Arianrod was the Celtic goddess of fertility, rebirth, and the weaving of cosmic time and fate. Her name has been translated as Silver Wheel, a symbol that represents the ever-turning wheel of the year. The wheel may also refer to the ore wheel upon which she carried the dead back to her heavenly northern land, the Corona Borealis. So, the actual crown, or Caer Arianrod, the Castle of Arianrod. It was here that, according to some Welsh traditions, the dead souls waited for the goddess and her female attendants to decide their fate before being reincarnated. She's linked with the moon and the North Star, living in a realm known as Caer City, which means revolving castle. Okay, so her myth, I think we're good on time, might as well go ahead and read this. In Celtic mythology, her uncle Math had to keep his feet in the lap of a virgin when he was not at war. Let me actually go to not that one, but the Wikipedia version of this, because it's quite a bit more fleshed out. So the Mabinogion, I think that's what it is. The fourth branch of the Mabinogi is her most important role, apparently. So, according to the fourth branch, circa the 12th century, Arianrod's uncle Mathfab Mathanui would die if he didn't keep his feet in the lap of a virgin when he was not at war. Lap of a virgin when he was not at war. So, Glyfaithwy conceives a lust for Math's original footholder, Pretty Gowan, and he and his brother Gwydion engineer war with King Pryderi of Kingdom of Dyfed, forcing Math to leave his court. So basically, they were like, okay, we want this chick, so we're gonna create a war. So, and he and his brother Gwydion, already read that. In Math's absence, Gylfaethwy rapes Gowan. When Math returns, he punishes his nephews severely by turning them into a series of mated pairs of animals. And marries Gowan to alleviate her shame. However, he must find a new virgin to hold his feet. So Gwydion, of course, because he's an asshole, suggests his sister Arianrod to test her virginity. Math tells her to step over his magician's rod. On doing this, however, she immediately gives birth to a young boy, Dylan Eldon, and a blob-like entity which becomes Lula Gifts. I'm not sure how to actually pronounce that. So Dylan is a sea spirit who flees to the ocean immediately after he is baptized. I don't blame him. Gwydion grabs Lula Gifts before anyone else sees it and places it in a chest. Before long, it becomes a boy who grows at twice the normal rate. When he's 4, he's as big as an 8-year-old. Gwydion takes him to see his mother at her home, Caer Arianrod. So basically, she's the moon goddess. He's like, here's your other son. And Arianrod was a bit angry about her humiliation at Math's court. I wouldn't be so... Yeah, that's kind of an ass... pain in the butt. That's just rude. So she places a tinged, or gay, or a taboo on the boy that he will never have a name unless she gives it to him. Gwydion disguises the boy as a shoemaker and returns to Caer Arianrod. While Arianrod is being fitted, she sees the boy killing a wren with a single stone and remarks that the fair-haired one, Lu, has a skillful hand, La Gifts. Gwydion reveals the disguise and says she has just given her son a name. Arianrod then places a second Tenget on Lu that he would never take arms unless she armed him. A few years later, Gwydion and Lu just return to Arianrod, this time disguised as bards. Gwydion is an accomplished storyteller and entertains her court. That night, while everyone sleeps, he conjures a fleet of warships. Arianrod gives her guests weapons and armor to help her fight, thereby dispelling her second curse. When Gwydion reveals the trickery, Arianrod places a final Tenget on Lu. He would never have a wife from any race that is on the earth now. And Gwydion and Math eventually break this curse by creating a woman out of oak blossom, broom, and meadowsweet. She is named Blowith, or Flowerface. With her curses, Arianrod denied Lu the three aspects of masculinity: a name, arms, and a wife. Wow. I don't blame her. She got the short end of the stick on that. No pun intended. Sorry. But yeah, so that is the myths of Corona Borealis, the crown, or Arianrod. Both of these two main myths that we know with it are associated with women who were basically stiffed. They were promised something or other. In Ariadne's case, she was promised to be the wife to someone if she helped him basically defeat a monster. And in Arianrod's case, it was like, hey, are you a virgin? This king needs to put his feet in your lap constantly, so she came to be there. They were both conned down to that. Well, not really conned. They were both left hanging out of that. They were stiffed down of it. By Ariadne's case, Theseus just fucking left her in her heartbreak. In Arianrod's case, Math was like, you know what, I don't believe you're really a virgin. Step over my magician's wand. Which we're pretty sure is an algorithm for a dick. Which, in that case, could basically be said to maybe he decided, oh no, she's too pretty to be a virgin, I'm just gonna fuck her and make her give birth to something, basically. Magically. Which, I mean, that's pretty humiliating. So both of these women were humiliated. Ariadne's has a better ending because through all that, she was able to meet Dionysus and become basically a wife to a god. And that's the myth that the Celestial Tarot has associated with it. In Ariandrod's case, she really didn't get much good out of that. She just constantly ended up being forced to trip over her own feet by her asshole of a brother, basically. So that didn't work out as well for her. But Ariadne has a pretty nice ending. But yeah, so we have a bit of that through trial and tribulation, through heartbreak. Better things came about type deal. Alright, so that is the celestial one. So in traditional astrology, as I mentioned earlier, the Three of Swords is actually associated with Saturn in the second deacon of Libra, I believe. Yeah, because usually it's off by one. Leo, Mercury, Jupiter, and Libra. Yeah, the second deacon of Libra. So, Three of Swords, second deacon of Libra, which is Saturn in Libra. So it's the deacons of 10 to 19 degrees. So I've got my Archeon Tarot here, which is, yes, tore up a bit over here. But we've got three swords in the foreground, all varying heights. Only one of them is actually breaking through a decorative metal or ceramic heart. And behind them is a person who's got their face in their hands, and looks like they're just sobbing. So a broken heart, three swords. It's like the swords are kind of protecting them a little bit. Like, you can't get past this in my grief. I'm putting up swords to protect myself while I grieve this broken heart, basically, or shattered heart. So Saturn is the planet of restriction, limitations, and boundaries. Libra, as we've discussed before, is about balance, the peace-loving diplomacy, justice. A little bit of the justice card has to be brought into here about this. Saturn in Libra is when Libra is forced to acknowledge its restrictions. It's weighed down by Saturn. So Libra is an air sign. Libra loves to free float, go up high, and just enjoy itself and be in harmony and balance. And Saturn comes along and says, okay, look, that's great, but you're not able to just fly off into the ether and the atmosphere with no problems whatsoever. There, for one thing, you have the Earth right here. It's weighed down by Saturn's time, realizing that things aren't free and lovey-dovey all the, just amazing all the time, free-floating. Libra has to acknowledge Saturn forces Libra to acknowledge the fact that time is a thing that happens and things change. Time will take all. Libra is often also associated with like love and romance, and specifically in this case, affairs of the heart will always hold a price. Saturn is, interestingly enough, Saturn is actually exalted in Libra. It loves the finely honed sense of precision and balance it finds in Libra. So Libra is brought down to Earth because it can't all be happy floaty, which kind of makes sense given the fact that Libra is also associated with justice. So it's like things must be in perfect balance for Libra. It can't all be off in the ether. It's got to be somewhat restricted. So Saturn loves Libra because it's like, okay, hang on, yeah, let's get this. It's balance and precision. It loves it there. Libra might be a little bit like, oh god, some weight, fuck, but also, okay, now we must find the balance between these two. So Saturn and Libra actually isn't all that bad of a placement for it. We have to bring in a little bit of that Venus, that love. 9. I have that backwards. I just looked down at my Roman numerals notes here and I realized I have it as 9 instead of 11. Well, 9 is the Hanged Man. No, I can't. Well, I can see a little bit. Well, yeah, because if you think of the Hanged Man as Saturn and Libra, it's like that perfect, precise balance. But okay, we're up in the air, but we gotta stop and listen. It's time to like actually weigh all the different decisions. Wow. Fortuitous mistake. Actually makes sense, but you can make sense of anything if you try hard enough. Alright, anyway. 3 of Swords here. It's like there's grief here. It's like the person in the background is like experiencing the heartbreak that Saturn has brought. That, you know, this love affair, this puppy love comes with a price and it can't last forever, and sometimes you're going to go through and experience heartbreak and you have to deal with that and you have to get through that and you have to bring yourself back into a balance of sort, as Libra will find and Libra will always do. So that's the astrology of Saturn and Libra. So we've got to kind of tie that into Mercury and Libra, I don't know if I could tie that. I can definitely tie it with the myth of Corona. That's pretty obvious. It's like things are going great, and now we've crashed, and now we've got to experience this and let the lesson be learned, and then from learning that lesson, we will rise stronger. After this breakdown, things get built back better type deal. So I can definitely tie it to the myth of Corona Borealis, or the myths specifically. As for Mercury and Libra, Mercury and Libra, Saturn, they don't work together. So, but take them both. Now for caveat for that, the Mercury and Libra is specific to the Celestial Tarot. But if that's what resonates more with you with the 3 of Swords than the Saturn and Libra, take it. There's a reason I do both of these, is because while I know the Celestial, I do have specific decks, like my Celestial, the Kabbalistic Angels, and the Fantasy World Tarot. Those are very specific decks, but I think they do add flavor to the understanding of the card as a whole, no matter where the decks you might find, because you'll find some decks that it look more like, for example, this Mercury in Libra, I could definitely see it with the Three of Air and the Good Tarot. I can see a little bit of Saturn, like restriction, like she's not able to fly. She's actually down on the ground. That, okay, we've got it. We've been grounded. This air has been grounded type deal. Mercury in Libra, the fact that she's holding onto her throat like she really can't talk. Like she's like frozen in indecision because she's not sure of what to say that works best for possibly others who she's walking away from, or herself. She's having to figure out her voice. So there we see both aspects of both Mercury in Libra, of Saturn in Libra. If you pull the Deacons in there, it's going to be a little bit more complex, but meh. So yeah, it's again, you can take both of them, take what resonates, what works, what doesn't, leave what doesn't, or even just take them both, file them away, and sometimes they'll want to work for one card, want to work for another deck, and then sometimes both of them will work for a deck, and sometimes neither of them might work for a deck. For example, this next card we're going in, so we're moving into the Kabbalah, and I just had to bring out my Mystical Cats Tarot for this one, just because. So we've got 3 cats standing on this wall and gate, this brick wall and gate that's, well, it was covered in pretty decorative pots, except for these cats have been busy knocking all of them off. And we've got one cat, the black and white cat at the very top, which is pushing over a beautiful, huge quartz point. That thing's about to go bye-bye. Got the gray cat looking down at this, another pretty white jar with a peacock feather drawing on it. We've got the red and white cat just knocking over a red thing. He's got a whole line. They got a whole line of shattered pots all the way down. This is the disaster card. Things have been upended, basically. If I was to pull in some of the astrology here, it would probably be definitely more Saturn in Libra. Like, all this beauty has just come tumbling down. We ain't gonna bother with that. But it works especially perfect for the Kabbalah, which is Binah. So 3s in the tarot are associated with the 3rd Sephirot of the Kabbalistic Tree of Life, which is Binah, or understanding. Binah is the top of the pillar of severity, the pillar of limitations and restriction, the pillar associated with Saturn. Binah itself is also associated with Saturn. So we've got a lot more Saturn flavor to the 3 of Swords than we do Mercury, but I still wouldn't discount Mercury. Or the Gemini in Libra, basically. Wrong one. So Binah is the beginning of the pillar of severity. It's the supernal mother, quote unquote, the giver of life and limitation, because if you are living, then you are a soul in a body. You are not a soul able to immediately teleport to everywhere, whichever way you want, and think through and talk through your mind and whatnot. You're restricted to your physical form. So Binah, the understanding, is realizing that while wisdom is infinite, understanding it is limited, and being able to understand things is limited by our mind's capacity to understand things. There are some things that we can't really understand or fathom, such as infinity. If you think of the universe, more than likely, even though you don't mean to, you will probably put some sort of a boundary on it. Even though okay, so particularly the universe in specific, we do know there is a boundary. We can't really fathom what might be outside of that boundary right now, but okay, that's not a good example. Infinity. We can't really fathom infinity itself. It's like our minds naturally set boundaries because we are used to boundaries, to limits and restriction. The infinite wisdom of infinity is, it's not really knowable. It's like we can sort of sense a flavor of it. We can, if we really sit there and think on it, we might be able to kind of grasp a picture of what infinity looks like, what endlessness looks like. But it is very, very difficult, and I don't know, and if you can do it for longer than a few seconds, kudos to you, but at a certain point, you're going to notice you've put a boundary somewhere, and you're going to go, God damn it, it's supposed to be boundaryless. But we're not really good at that, and that's because we understand things, and with understanding comes limits and restrictions, which is Binah. It's the understanding, the realizing this infinite self, seeing its duality, and then going, okay, now I understand things. Now we have boundaries. Now we know that I am not my reflection. So in the this Kabbalah book I read that explained it beautifully, the 1 is the self, the 2 is the reflection, 3 is realizing the self and the reflection are not the same thing. Not the same things. Setting boundaries, understanding. That's honestly the best way I've ever seen it put. I really need to actually buy that book. And it's a really good sense. I actually use that in the way of teaching numerology to a degree because it works. So Binah is associated with the left brain. So again, we started the 3 itself is the left brain as well in numerology. So again, we see that logical, rational, and the place of the memory, the mental, the actual mind. It's located in Olam Atzilut, or the realm of emanation. So it's the beginning of the ideas, the place of fire, that spark of creativity. It's things where things are first birthed, basically. Binah is 1/2 of the third eye chakra. So number 2 is the right brain, and then number 3 is the left brain, and together they meet in the middle and create the third eye chakra. There's a few things in the Kabbalistic Tree of Life that do that as well. Where is it? All right. So from Tarot and the Tree of Life by Isabel Radau-Klegman, she talks about the 3 of Swords being about taking pain into our hearts, being willing to feel and process pain to grow in wisdom. The 3 shows willingness, courage, and honesty to experience pain in our lives. That is probably where I stole that first line about the swords from. I steal a lot of stuff. She writes really well. I steal and paraphrase a lot of her stuff. I really love her book. All right, so now how to apply that to these lovely 3 disastrous kitty cats. Well, those vases were probably fucking expensive. So this is not the view from the cats. This is somebody walking up on the cats is definitely the feel of this card. It's like those 3 little assholes have cost you a lot of money with their disaster spree they're on. And it's like, some of those are probably you can take this can take this many different ways. Either that's a lot of money that you've just had wasted. Some of those might have been antiques, so that's a lot of money. Some of those might have had sentimental value. They might have belonged to family or been inheritance. And it's like, that's even more painful because it's no longer just money, it's connection to past and history. Or a combination of all of the above. Or, if they were just cheap shit, it's like, well, shit, I've lost some stuff. And those are the different types of pains that we can experience and deal with in the 3 of Swords. Because it's not when it comes to the minor arcana, it's not always a big thing. Sometimes it's like, well, shit. Okay, moving on. Next thing. That's why they're known as the minor arcana, because they are about the minor details, the specifics in our life, not the big overall, you have just lost a loved one. It's the, your cat knocked over a priceless antique. Sorry. Or something that cost you $50 when it should have really only cost you like 15, but okay. That sort of stuff. Sometimes it's just, this really nice thing about this card is like, and the Mystical Cats Tarot in general, sometimes it's just the simple stuff. Sometimes it's just that irritation that like, oh, god damn it, are you serious? I paid so much for that thing. But you have to process it and just be like, okay, do I kill my cat now or later? Or do I actually love him? I think I love the cat. But I'm not sure. I might have to have him hide for a few days. It's like, sometimes that's all the Three of Swords is about. Sometimes that's what the pain of processing is. And sometimes it can be big stuff, and sometimes it's small little stuff. That's definitely a lot more easier to deal with in the Mystical Cats Tarot, but the Three of Swords, but not the Pillar of Severity, it's like just being willing to process that pain, be willing to go, oh my god, I just lost that much. Oh, this is going to take some time. Or being, if we want to take the Archeon Tarot with that, being in that grief, like, I just lost this relationship. I just had my heart shattered. I need some time to process putting these swords all up in front of me while I sob my heart out, eat a tub of ice cream or cookies, and just wallow in my pain and work through it and process it. It's all these many different things. All right. Whoa, time is going on. All right, so next three parts, these ones always go a little bit faster. So the Three of Swords in the Kabbalistic Angels is, let's see if I can pronounce this. Why does it look like I have a D there? I think that's supposed to be an H. Give me 5 seconds. Which card is this? 39. I'm going to do a lot of cutting on this one. Rahael. Okay. Alright, so I don't know why I wrote it to look like a D, but it's actually an H. Oy. It's Rahael. Rahael. That's a mouthful for something that's only 6 letters. Rahael. Rahael. I'm trying to say it faster. But either way, so this angel Rahael is whose name means the quickly forgiving God. They are one of the powers, so the 6th out of 9 hierarchies. 6th hierarchy out of 9. Their psalm is chapter 30, verse 10. Rahael rules health and long life. Influences paternal and filial love and obedience and respect of children for their parents. They provide cures for illness and help obtain God's mercy. And this one, interestingly enough, didn't have any of the section for those born under will experience blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to guess, well, given their section of ruling and influence, it'd probably be a very healthy family type deal. So which, I mean, I don't see much rules born under equals type deal. But either way, influences paternal love. They kind of rule love and submission. So again, with kind of the love theme with this one, the quickly forgiving God, someone who, it's like even when they're hurt, they're able to process and move through it quickly and able to forgive type deal. Those born under, they are the soul Rahael. I will get this right. Rahel is the soul guardian for those born from 1240 to 1 p.m. or 1300. The physical guardian for those born September 26th through 30th. And the moral guardian for those born February 9th, April 27th, July 8th, September 18th, and November 29th. So yeah, pretty short and sweet. Definitely someone I'd suggest calling on for if you work with angels, someone for good health, longevity, health in your family, probably particularly, or if your kids are being little brats and you like, I need some goddamn respect around here. Or if you're like, they're being brats, I need them to like, and you're just frustrated and you're like, I need to have some patience with these damn kids. Probably a good point for Rahel. Because quickly forgiving, I'd say that's probably useful for parents. I'm not a parent, so I don't know, and maybe sometimes you're like, I don't want to forgive these little brats, I want to strangle the hell out of them. Fair enough. I have dealt with kids. I don't have kids, but I have babysat and worked in nurseries, and there's a reason I don't want to have kids. Kudos to those of you who can do it. If I ever have kids, I'm going to be adopting teenagers. Maybe. I hear that's slightly worse, but fuck if I know. I was a horrible teenager, though, so maybe I shouldn't. I don't want to repeat that. Alright, so next card is where it gets interesting. So the Fantasy World Tarot, of course, the being associated with Three of Swords is an alien! Little green man from Mars. Look at that pretty thing. So, of course, the traditional... For those of you who aren't looking or can't see it, it's kind of your traditional alien, the green bald thing with the kind of a stretchy, bouncy neck, like those tube spring necks, big black eyes, two little slits for the nostrils, a little slit for the mouth. There's a UFO, or, well, like 3 UFOs in the background, all the traditional round ones. One of them's got a beam straight down, like he's lifting something up or setting something down. The alien in the foreground itself has got flower petals around it, like he just burst out of a bush, like, hello, what's up with you? The other 2 UFOs that aren't beaming are kind of flying in the background. There's a lot of stars and space in the background, even though it looks like the sun's rising up, so, there's a very weak sun. And so aliens, not much to be found on a lot of that. So I went with dictionary definitions. So alien, number 1, any form of life, extraterrestrial or extra-dimensional, which is kind of what's given in this card, extraterrestrial, extra-dimensional. 2, a person, plant, animal, or thing outside of family, group, organization, or territory being considered. So basically like the number 5, an introduced species. So this species is alien to this area type deal. It's like it doesn't naturally occur here, like how horses are technically were originally an alien species to North Americas because the Europeans brought them over. They introduced them to the North Americas. They integrated pretty well because unlike, say, rabbits in Australia, they were able to be hunted down by natural predators and they fit right into the food chain. Rabbits in Australia was a dumbass who decided it would be cool to hunt rabbits, and he was pissed off that there weren't any in Australia, so he brought rabbits over, started breeding them, and, well, you know rabbits, shit got out of control. I think they brought in another predator to come hunt down the rabbits, who started hunting down regular wildlife as well, and that was just an ecological disaster all around. But anyway, continuing on. 3, a foreigner, so basically how... let's try to make this not too politically tense here. How, say, I as an American, or as a United States American, would be an alien to Canada. Let's just go Canada. I am a foreigner. I'm an alien in Canada when I go through Canada, which is very rarely. Or if the one time I was in Japan, I was definitely an alien there, because tall, blonde, white person walking around a lot of short, black-haired people. Still white, but, well, they're not considered white, are they? I don't know. They got pale skin. All right. But anyway, for one excluded from certain things. So when you got a group of kids and they look at another kid and they're like, you can't play with us. Well, that kid that can't play with them is now an, quote, alien. So alien in general just kind of means the outside of. They're not accepted. They're not from there. They're not really part of that. So now how that corresponds with the Three of Swords. There's a doozy of a question. Well, let's look back at some of the other stuff. A lot of it has to do with heartbreak, of feeling isolated and in grief. It's like, of course an alien would work perfect there. It's like someone who is not from this place and is isolated, is kicked out, excluded from things. This feels grief. Now, that's a very morbid way of seeing such a very cheerful looking card. It's a lot of bright colors, but it's like sometimes that being outside and excluded can be a good thing. Some people like to be the eccentric outsider who scares other people. It's the thing, it happens. So this could be both a positive and a negative card. It's like sometimes you're like feeling like shit that you're outside of the norm, and sometimes you're like, I am different person. All that sort of stuff. Alright, so last bit, since this is actually going on a lot longer than I thought it would. Traditional meanings of the Three of Swords. So here I've got Three of Swords from Tarot of the Old Path. We've got three people all holding swords. There's a woman in the foreground who's looking down, crying. She's kind of holding her brilliant gold sword, like, off in the palm of her hand, like it's not really hers and she wasn't fighting. She's just, like, crying. There's a couple of dudes in the background. The one with the helmet is standing over the one that's bareheaded, who's lying on the ground with a head wound. So dude in the helmet has definitely won, and I'm guessing that woman was not happy about that. She wanted the other dude to win. So there's some heartbreak and grief there of trials and tribulations of not getting what you wanted for the most part here. So upright, traditional keywords and meanings going with this are broken, died, betrayal, heartache, loss, pain, shadow cast over life, transition of the soul, a universal whammy, death, divorce, cheating, devastation, car accidents, and calamities. So basically anything that is a turned upside down on its head, a problem, a wreckage, whether it be minor or major type deal. Is what the Three of Swords is associated with, is like, shit's gone down, you've just been smacked in the face by the universe, and it hurts, and type deal. Inverted is a reminder that you can't stay swimming in your grief forever. It still hurts, but the pain is lessening. Healing, it's time to heal. Things are actually healing. You need to realign your purpose. Well, there's a couple meanings. Either you're stuck in your grief, you can't even recognize, you're so used to the grief, you can't even recognize when it's abated. You're just like stuck doing that because that's what you know, and it's like, okay, it's time to get out. It's the stuff's time, it's like it's time to get out. It's time to move on from this. It's not as bad as it once was. You're just in the habit of experiencing this pain. Or going through the motions of experiencing it. Or on the other side, it's like stuff's healing, it's lessening, you're moving beyond this, you can do it, keep going, you're gonna get past this and out of it type deal. Alright, and that is the Three of Swords all together. Hope y'all had fun with this one. Hope it was insightful and meaningful, and that we've added a lot more layers to the Three of Swords other than it just being the heartbreak card. It's like there's a little bit more depth to it, or at least we've taken this one block of stuff and actually sliced it up and explored the different parts of it, and like, okay, now hopefully we all have a bit of a better understanding about it now. And yeah, yeah, that's all I got for that. Okay. I will see y'all next week with the next planet in our series of astrology, stones, and herbs. Should be a fun one. We're going to be talking about Venus, which, yay, always pretty good. For some reason, I'd written down in my notebook, I'd written it out of order. I'd had Mars as next, and I was like, wait a second, didn't I just do Mercury? Shouldn't it be Venus next? Yeah, it should be Venus next. So, Venus next week. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your whatever, and I will see you then. All right, bye.